This is an incoming transmission from the Jersey Shore.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, powered by McLean Advisory Group. Today you'll hear some of the most important financial information and wealth-building techniques available anywhere.
Let's get this party started, huh?
Do you have a question for Scott and the team?
Am I on the air?
609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646.
We'll get that information to them by radio.
Now, Financial Insanity with Scott McLean.
Don't count your chickens before they hatch. We've all heard that before. Maybe it was a grandparent, a parent. Maybe we're passing that on to our own kids and grandkids. And what does this mean for our finances? How do we keep from counting our chickens before they hatch in our nest egg? See what we did there? Pretty cute. Well, you're going to find out today. Scott McLean and Financial Insanity. Out-of-the-box thinking for your financial sanity. So, Scott, what do you think of when you hear don't count your chickens before they hatch as it applies to retirement income?
So not as it applies to my farm.
Yeah.
All right. So obviously you heard noise from our farm, but the neatest thing is, we all depend on income coming in when you're in retirement or nearing retirement. I had a phone call today from a couple that just moved to Green Cove Springs, Florida, and this couple is trying to plan the retirement. So counting your chickens before they hatch is, we definitely want to have a nice income. But what if something happens? What if you get sick and disabled? What if you retire? What if you get fired? When we talk about Social Security, of course, are you thinking about, well, what if my spouse takes it first and I take mine later? Great option. But on the other side of the coin, when you're thinking about taking your Social Security, what if your spouse dies and you lose that option? So when you're planning for Social Security, Alex, the biggest challenge I find is they don't look at holistically I call it the three-legged stool: your Social Security, your current investments, and your retirement investments, or maybe your pension. And you must really delve into questions like that when you're planning your retirement, because you're trying to count your chickens before they hatch. But what if something happens? So you need to ask a lot of different variables. I think this is very, very important, Alex.
Absolutely. And Scott, when we're talking specifically about Social Security and now not counting your chickens before they hatch, the easy thing to think about is the cost of living adjustment. And this is made each year. And I hear you laughing. And
It's going up.
Yeah. Well, we got an estimate from the Senior Citizens League. And no, that's not, the softball league or anything. But there could be a 9.6% increase in Social Security payments next year. But we don't want to just assume that and make plans based on that. Right, Scott?
No, I would run the numbers just for giggles. I would really think about 7 to 9%. Now they're saying about 8.7 or perhaps 9. So again, counting the chickens for the hatch. Just be glad they have Social Security. Be glad that if you're taking it now, you're getting Social Security. But use that in your numbers if you want. Just use a quick thing. Maybe an extra average is about an extra $150 plus or minus the $10. It's about $150 is the average.
Well, and there's still a lot of data to be collected, and before that official COLA is announced, so that could all go down. And as far as counting on Social Security for income, I mean, how much should we be counting on that as we move forward?
Well, you need to really, if you're listening right now, grab yourself a pen, paper, or pencil. If you simply go to Social Security, you need to know your numbers. I could throw all sorts of numbers out there, but that'd be like a doctor giving you a prescription for a ailment you don't have. But I think the first part is to really go to socialsecurity.gov, and it's called My Account. You can actually log in if you haven't done it before and watch your numbers, watch your income. They could be wrong. My Social Security. Go Google that, download the information. You can get your report right away. And I think this is very important for those of you that are divorced. And maybe you should take your husband's or your wife's, or I should say your significant other, prior significant other, take their Social Security. So should you or shouldn't you take their Social Security and let yours be delayed? This is very important. This report, go to mysocialsecurity.gov. I think it's called socialsecurity.gov and then my account. Download that report. If you can't get your report, you need to call Social Security. You need that report before you start counting your chickens, as we spoke about, because you could be way off. Your report could be wrong. Very important.
If you have questions, Scott may have answers for you. You can reach Scott and his team, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. Another area here where this lesson comes into play on how your retirement income is going to be taxed. Don't want to necessarily look at account balances and assume that's the amount we get to spend in retirement. Tell us, Scott, taxes, the impact that's going to have on retirement.
Alex, this is so important if you're listening right now, why your advisor should be looking at your tax returns or asking you questions on an annual basis. Why? Because one year your Social Security may not be taxed at all because of the marginal tax bracket. And the Social Security could be totally tax-free, and then all of a sudden you hit a wonderful age, let's say 72, you've received tax-free Social Security, and now because you're taking your required minimum distributions from your investments, it's now taxed up to, drum roll please, that's right, 85%. 85% it can be taxed up to. This is why the tax returns is critical to look at when you're planning heading into retirement or while you're in retirement. And this is not an Einstein deal. It's very simple, especially if your advisor's been doing it for years. I'm sure your a tax preparer has been doing taxes for years, but their job is not to guide you. Their job is to do the taxes. This is where your financial advisor, preferably a fiduciary that's looking for your best interest. If you're not, you're looking in the wrong neighborhood. And for those do-it-yourselfers, you need to pay attention to Social Security and how it's taxed. Now, to put the whole picture together, like you said, Alex, you've got your 401k, 403b, perhaps you have a 457. Maybe you have a defined contribution plan. How is that taxed? That's called ordinary income. So when you're pulling money out of those vehicles, perhaps you have other vehicles, let's say a non-qualified account, a joint account, maybe money you've been saving on the side. When you design your retirement for efficiency, tax efficiency, as well as less taxation, perhaps your spouse's lights are going dim. Which account should you use? Perhaps your spouse is now disabled and you're pulling money to pay for a in-home nursing. You see, Alex, how many choices there are. So I'm talking on the radio to you listeners right now. I'm speaking to you because you have choices to make, and everybody is not cookie cutter. I hate financial planning shows where they give you what to do, but everybody's not the same. You know, if you want some ideas or some thoughts or some concerns, please don't put this off, because when you make a choice for Social Security, when you turn on your pension plan and make choices for pension, when you start pulling money out of your accounts, which account do you pull it out from? This is why it's important. Write this down. This is, please do yourself a favor. Write this down. Ready? 609-488-4646. Write this down. 609-488-4646, because I'll be able to help guide you. You give me a call off the air. You're making a decision to retire. You look at all your investment accounts and how much do you pull out of your accounts so you can minimize taxes.
Well, and Scott, the whole topic today, talking about not counting chickens before they hatch, is all about not making assumptions, not assuming you're going to be okay or that you're going to be, not okay. And
You're right.
And this is where, Scott, bringing in a professional, whether it's a first or a second or a third opinion, but just that you don't want to make these assumptions. And you alluded to it, but there's just so many details and so many codes and so many rules, and tax rates change all the time, and how do you stay ahead of these things, and so you're not just being reactive. And these are all things that you can either think about, or you can invest some time with someone to think about that for you.
Well, Alex, you said the word reactive, and I think that's a very powerful question, because most of us are reactive. It's like, I want to go get something in the store. You go to McDonald's, you buy food that's maybe not that healthy for you, you're reactively going to fill your hanger tank. Or I think my daughter calls me sometimes when I don't eat. You want to make a quick answer, but that quick answer could cause more ailments, more challenges, more problems. So you want to be proactive, not reactive. And this is a big point. Counting your chickens before they hatch. Well, things do change. So you could plan now, but maybe later on in life, another 2 or 3 months, all of a sudden, I'll give you a case in point that your child has taken sick. And I'm not being doom and gloomer here early in the morning, but your child has taken sick, and perhaps maybe now you have to take care of the grandkids. Maybe now your retirement has changed. Maybe now you are putting the grandkids, and now you're raising the grandkids. I know I have several clients like this. They're about to retire, and all of a sudden now they become, like I should say, parents, but now they're grandparents. But now the tax return changed because now they have some different exemptions. This is not a set it and forget it deal. This is not a deal where your advisor meets with you one time and over the phone or on Zoom or in person, and you're done. This is a plan that's fluid. Alex, we spoke in one of our shows about a financial plan. Anytime you put a financial plan is, to me, ridiculous if it's for your life, because it's not stagnant. It's for that point in time, and then that's set. But things change. So a financial plan, you pay a financial planner to put a plan together. And today the plan looks wonderful, but 6 months down the line, the plan has changed. You pay all that money, but life has changed. This is why I think it's crazy to put a financial plan and put a period at the end of that word financial plan, because it is a moving target. Life is a moving target, as we all know.
Scott welcomes you to try that number. Also, if you would rather go to the website, it is simply the phone number with .com at the end. So 609-488-4646.com.
How simple is that?
Pretty darn easy. And you are listening to Financial Insanity, out of the box thinking for your financial sanity. More with Scott coming up.
What if you ordered a pizza, but when you opened the box, a couple pieces were missing? That would be upsetting, right? Now think about how much you believe you have saved for retirement. Do you still owe taxes on that money? If you do, that could take a big bite out of your nest egg. Financial advisor Scott McLean and his team at McLean Advisory Group understand the importance of tax planning and can help you reduce the impact that Uncle Sam has on your retirement. Give them a call today to start working on your retirement tax plan. 609-488-4646. Create a plan today so that you can get as many slices of your retirement pie as possible. Call Scott McLean at 609-488-4646 today and schedule your retirement tax analysis. That's 609-488-4646. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Tax Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies, LLC, are not associated entities. Firm may not give tax advice.
And when you pay down debt, you don't pay down the highest interest rate. The biggest mistake is you pay the highest interest rate card when you should do the snowball effect of paying down debt.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, presented by McLean Advisory Group.
Thank you so much for joining us for Financial Insanity. You know, it's easy to make assumptions about what goes into a legacy plan. Scott McLean going to help make it clear for you as we dive into some of the basics of creating a lasting legacy for your family. So important to so many of us. And if you have questions, that number is 609-488-4646 for Scott McLean and McLean Advisory Group, located in Waretown. 609-488-4646. And Scott, I do want to go over some basics because I know you deal with this all the time, but I want to make sure people understand what the main things are here when we're talking about this legacy. So what are some important things to be thinking about?
In creating a legacy, we call it the 3D approach to your financial planning: the dreams, the dollars, the investments, and the dynasty. And this, we're talking about dynasty right now, and I appreciate you asking that. I appreciate you guys listening to us at our radio station for now, I don't know, 14, 15 years right now.
Oh, yeah.
But I want to be clear on your dynasty, your legacy. Number one, the biggest challenge I find out when I do workshops, seminars, or when I meet clients, when George meets clients, or our financial advisors meets clients, is number one, they haven't dusted off their legal documents. They shove them in the drawer or their vault or their bank, and they don't read them. And that's problem number one. Problem number two, they forgot to double check what the lawyer wrote. They're trusting the lawyer wrote it up correctly, and he or she probably did. But when we review the legal documents once a year, did you hear me? Once a year, because maybe your son or your daughter is the executrix. Maybe they're the power of attorney. But maybe they died. Or maybe their health went south and you didn't change it. Or maybe the attorney didn't give a backup in case something happens to them. I can tell you, when George came to me the other day and we looked at some legal documents, I said, George, where's the backup? He goes, Scott, I can't find it anywhere. Let me see the darn thing. I don't believe you. And that George is a brilliant kid. I said, George, you're right. Did they wear that? Well, they just dropped it off. I wanted to review it for them because they're investing with us, but I wanted to make sure they're buttoned up on our areas. If you don't review your legal documents, and I say once a year, not with your lawyer, but at least with your financial advisor, the reason people meet with their financial advisor, Alex, is because pretty much they're the ones who are going to get the first phone call. Say, where's my money? What's going on? How do I get money out to take care of mom and dad? How do I take care of my children? And so, number one, your will, power of attorney, living will, healthcare directive, or maybe if you want to protect your money from the crows and the clowns, I call that the people that want to grab your money at the day you check out, or maybe your lights are dim and the nursing home wants to get it. This is why people call us and they come in so often because of this radio station, WBNJ. And when they come in, we review the legal documents in light of, you're clear, their financial planning and their financial instruments, because this is a problem. So again, you want to make sure you review the will, power of attorney, living will, healthcare directive. Maybe you have a Q-tip trust for those of you who are living with someone and you want to let them stay in your house. Maybe you have an irrevocable trust to protect the house from the nursing home. This planning is so strategic to you listening right now. You might think, oh, nothing's going to happen to me. I'm fine. Okay, great, tough guy. Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah. But you never know when somebody pulls over. Maybe you get a heart attack, or maybe they go to the doctor and get a checkup, or you get a blood test and all of a sudden, I don't say a cuss word. Maybe, whoop, that's right. Something came up. Guys, take care of this legacy planning. This is the dynasty you're passing on. And how you pass it on could be extremely taxable or extremely tax-free, in addition to taxes as legacy. So, Alex, I hope that sums up for you out there.
No,
by the way, if you've got a question, I have answers. George has answers. Our firm has answers. You know, being in the business now over 43 years, Alex, we've got a lot of people to call. We know who to call. And if you have an attorney, we'll call your attorney. We'll have a conversation. If we're doing finance with our firm, we're going to really make sure you, your spouse, your kids, or maybe your charity is buttoned up to keep it away from the IRS or from the crows and the clowns that show up at the funeral.
Well, and that's why it's so important, Scott, as we're talking about creating this lasting legacy, to have a strategic legacy plan. If you could talk about just the benefits there, because there could be some, costly missteps, some overtaxation and other things if you're not strategic about this.
Let me give you a hint, Alex. Imagine you have a 401k, those people listening. Maybe you have a 403b. Maybe you have a 457. And you're married and your spouse gets the goodies. But maybe you didn't put down the children. So let me tell you what happens. Or maybe your girlfriend or boyfriend. But you don't put them down as beneficiary. What happens in this case, 9 times out of 10, you pass away, but your wife or spouse died. So they're out. That's called the contingent. Who gets it next? And here is the problem. The money goes to the estate The estate now has the money. They have to cash it in, and then they pass it on to the beneficiaries in the will. That could cause 100% taxation to the beneficiary. Let me make it real clear. Rather than the 10-year stretch they call, you can get the money and you can take the money out over 10 years, which would reduce the contingent beneficiary's money. But if you don't pay attention to the taxes in addition to the beneficiaries, or maybe the financial advisor didn't ask these questions, shame on them, not you, because he or she, the financial advisor, if you're using one, shame on them. They should have looked at it. I know they're not a lawyer. Why would a financial planner look at the taxes? Why would they look at the legal? Because it's part of our process as a fiduciary. But here's the best thing. Imagine it going to your sweetie pie, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, because maybe your wife or your husband died. Maybe you have someone you're living with. You want to pass it on, and they're not on there. Do you want to avoid the instantaneous tax? Or can we do it? We've done this, Alex, before, where the person received over $800,000 and it was 100% taxable. Thank goodness they came to us, because we're able to work around the laws, making some phone calls, and how can we avoid this tax nightmare, because the IRS is pretty clear. By the way, if you're out there and you haven't reviewed and dusted off your legal documents, please do yourself, your spouse, your kids a favor. And write this down. This is very important. 609-488-4646. Again, 609-488-4646. Give our studios a call. We'll schedule a phone call. Maybe you have to come in and meet with our office. That's fine. But let's make sure you're buttoned up. And the reason we do this, Alex, is we want people to love us to death here. You know, over 40-something years in the industry, I can tell you one thing very clearly to you guys out there. Our firm continues to grow on warm introductions. Maybe you didn't do business with us, but I can tell you, when you come into our office, when you meet with us, you're going to feel treated right at home. We're going to make you feel right at home, whether you're a client or not, because we're not here to sell you. Hide your checkbook, hide your wallet, but come in with your questions. Write them down. Don't waste your time. Let's get right to the nitty-gritty so your dynasty, your legacy passes on. Your kids don't have to go to the courts to fix things. We can fix them with just a few drops of ink on a piece of paper, and just by a signature, you could protect your estate. But if you don't, you've caused a tremendous nightmare. And that's why at our firm and we have the lawyers here. You don't have to use our lawyers, but we can review things. We can ask questions instantly. So if we have a problem, we don't understand it, we can take care of it. 609-488-4646. Don't put this off. We're heading into a new year. We're heading into another year. We're heading into 5 years from now, and you've been putting it off. Don't put this off. I'd love to hear from you. If we can help you, we will help you right here at McLean Advisory, right here, Waretown, New Jersey.
Well, and Scott, it's all about making sure what happens with your dollars after you pass, what happens with it is what you wanted. This is not the kind of thing to make assumptions. Like you mentioned earlier, oh, well, I filled that paperwork out years ago. It's good. No, pull that thing out. And that's why, working with somebody like you, you're going to do that. You're going to bust that out every year. You're going to look at those beneficiary designations. You're going to go through that paperwork and make sure it's all accurate, because it's a very important thing. If you would, talk a little bit about your approach that your team takes. When it comes to estate and legacy planning, at what point does that come up with somebody's overall retirement plan?
I'm thinking of Josephine and Thomas that came into our office in 2017. I'll never forget meeting a beautiful, beautiful couple. And they had 4 beautiful kids, and we spoke about their estate, and they never reviewed their legal documents. So we did their financial, we looked at their taxes, and now we're looking at the legal and found out the 4 children, they actually had 5. And as I read the will and the power of attorney, the power of attorney is the one that directs the medical decisions, and the power of attorney is the one that directs the financial decisions. Well, his wife, Josephine's, her lights got a little dim to the point that she couldn't take action. And I'm thinking about it, and I looked at the the backup power of attorney, because Josephine was now unable to make good decisions. Her lights were flickering. In other words, going dim. In other words, she wasn't all there. And I'm not being unkind if you're out there listening to me. I'm very, very serious. And I love people to death. But I'll never forget talking to Thomas and finding out that their daughter had died. She was the backup to the mother. Now, who gets involved? They have to go to the courts now to put this in place. And my question to you out there, husband can do it, wife can do it. The question is, who's the backup? And the good thing is we could take care of this. The bad thing is it could delay the process. You see, when Thomas died and Josephine is still alive and her lights are dim, there was no backup. The challenge in 2020 became horrendous. It became an attorney's happiness because they get it now. Their taxi meter goes up. The billing starts. Are you paying attention to the legacy? This is your will, or maybe you have a revocable trust or irrevocable trust. Maybe you have beautiful documents, but they just haven't been reviewed. And so I find this so often, Alex, more than not, people don't pay attention. They think they're okay. Like a deer in the headlights, you're heading for a traffic accident. Fix this, guys. 609-488-4646. If you want to speak to me off the air, I'd love to talk to you. 609-488-4646. In our office, we'll set up a time we can have a discussion, Alex.
Yes, and that is Scott McLean, McLean Advisory Group. This is Financial Insanity, and coming up, some of the top legacy planning mistakes you want to try to avoid. That is on the other side.
Stop for a moment and think about this. Do you know how much money in your 401k or IRA is actually yours? Or will the government take a bigger chunk than you thought? Remember, you still might owe taxes on that money, but do you have a plan to help make sure you don't pay more than you should? At McLean Advisory Group, we believe you deserve to keep more of what you've earned, which is why we're here to help you navigate the confusing world of retirement taxes. It's your money. You deserve to know what's at stake. Right now, taxes are historically low, but they won't be this low forever. So call the McLean Advisory Group team today so you don't miss out on this opportunity. 609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646. You work hard for your money, and we'll work just as hard to help you keep it. McLean Advisory Group, 609-488-4646. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Tax Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies are not associated entities.
I call it the chicken and the egg. The chicken is the investment. The egg is the dividend. And so when the chicken pops out the eggs, if you don't need the money, let's reinvest the eggs and buy more chickens.
Man, that's just an excellent analogy, Scott.
We made it back. This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, presented by McLean Advisory Group.
Thank you so much for joining us for another installment of Financial Insanity. I'm your host, Alex Dingman, alongside financial advisor Scott McLean of McLean Advisory Group, talking about some important stuff today, creating a legacy plan for your retirement and your family. If you have questions, the number for McLean Advisory Group in Waretown, 609-488-4646. 609-488-4646. And Scott, if you could, my friend, what are some basic documents that we probably want to consider for a good estate plan?
You know, a great estate plan is having a plan. That's number one.
Yeah.
Not just winging it, or I'll get to it, or I think about it, but I haven't done it. Number one, having a plan implemented, signed. The documents, number one is a will. Now, a will goes to probate. A will goes to probate. But a will is pretty much who gets the goodies. I call that real simple. The challenge I find inside the will, inside the goodies, is who's going to get it. And you may change it. You might have one son or daughter who's on the wrong side of the road. Maybe you need to get some trust agreement, which we'll talk about. The next one's called the living will. The living will, Alex, this is so important. It happened to my sister and I when Daddy was about to pass away. Mom said, "You guys handle it. Can't think about it." Mom was out of it.
Yeah.
And she said, "Scott, Sandy, my sister, handle it. Well, the living will says, do not resuscitate, don't pass go, don't collect $200, goodbye. Well, Sandy wanted to feed Dad, and I remember, Sandy, I had this piece of paper. Daddy wanted to just go. He don't want to be fed, and he didn't want to be fed, and so Sandy wanted to feed him one night, and I remember get that phone call, I'm going to make Daddy comfortable. Her heart got involved, but her head left the paperwork, and I said, Sandy, please don't. I don't want to have to send a piece of paper to the hospital. Please don't feed Daddy. By the way, Daddy's going to haunt you if you do. He wants to go home. He wants to see his parents.
Right.
So living will. Next one's called the trust. You know, Alex, I'm not going to go through all 10 different types of trust, but there's more different types of trust. Sure. A lot of different types of trust. For example, maybe you have a son or daughter who every time they get a dollar, they're going to spend $5. That's called a spend-thrift trust. Maybe you have a special needs child and you want the money to go to the special needs child, but if they get it, they're going to lose benefits. Well, we need a special needs trust. Or maybe you have a testamentary trust. And so or perhaps you want to avoid Medicare planning and Medicaid planning. Maybe you want an irrevocable trust. So each state is different. I know, Alex, this radio show goes across the country in several different places, but here at WBNJ Radio, the nicest thing is there are several trusts. Oh, by the way, I got to say something, Alex.
Yes.
I'm not an attorney. I work with a lot of attorneys. I know this business, but that's the attorney's job. I want to make a clear disclaimer. I'm not an attorney, but I can tell you after reading so many documents, I want to make sure you that are listening to our show for 12, 13, 14, 15 years now, I can promise you, we want to make sure you're buttoned up. So you might want to trust. How do we protect our money? How can we possibly reduce taxes? How do we make sure the charity get it? The next one's called the power of attorney. This is the biggest mistake. The biggest mistake is the two different types of power of attorneys. Number one is called healthcare, the one who's going to talk to the doctors, make the arrangements. And the second one's called the financial power of attorney. I was a financial power of attorney for my mom and dad's estate. Sandy, my sister, was the healthcare power of attorney. So it was two of us. If Sandy passed away, there needs to be a contingent. This is where I find mistakes in the power of attorneys. There's usually always should be a contingent, but many times I've never seen a contingent. There's just one or the other. So the power of attorney, I believe everybody should have that across the board. If you've got kids 18 years or older, they need a power of attorney. I don't care if they have no money in their bank account. They need a power of attorney. And the last one is called the advance directive for healthcare reasons. What's the game plan? How are we putting this together? Again, we talk about the tremendous dreams you have because you're never going to get sick or die. The tremendous dollars you've saved because you're going to enjoy your wonderful retirement and travel the world and go here and there and everywhere. But then the next discussion is your dynasty. How do we make sure that all that hard work you, your spouse, your loved ones have saved over time, how do we make sure that's protected for your family, not the government or some crows and the clowns that show up at the funeral, Alex? So these are the documents. Please don't put this off. If you have more questions, 609-488-4646. You can ask for George. You can ask for Scott. You can ask my staff to get a hold of a quick phone call. We would love to help you and guide you along with your finances because they go hand in hand in addition to the tax returns to make sure you are totally buttoned up and your safety shield, your protection is in place, Alex.
Yeah, no, so important. And so, Scott, if I'm out here, I'm listening, what are some first steps? What do I need to do? I'm concerned. I want to do this right. I want to make sure I have a good legacy plan in place. What are some of the first action items, steps I should take?
You know, the reason people don't do anything, Alice, because there's so many steps.
Right.
So let's break it down. I appreciate the simplest thing. Number one, have you read your documents? Do you have documents? And if you don't have documents, don't beat yourself up. Let's get it done. Number two, after you read through the documents, take a step. Maybe you have a free consultation at our firm or a firm. Usually lawyers are going to charge you. At our firm, we don't. You'll meet with myself or George. We are not attorneys, but we know what to look for. We know how to deal because we deal with finances. That's what we do. But we also deal directly with the attorneys, whether it's your attorney or someone else's. Number three, I'd encourage you, I just thinking of this off the cuff. I'd encourage you, go to our website, 609-488-4646. Go to the book, Three Blind Mice, How the Financial Planning Process Leads Your Money to a Mousetrap, and download chapter 11. I walk through all the areas of this, Alex. I just was thinking about this. Holy mackerel. This could be a great read. It's very simple to read. It's not legalese, so I can't understand what the heck the lawyer is writing. All right, time out. You need to understand something, the basics. And this is why people love coming into our office, because we're going to walk you through this valley you don't want to talk about. Or maybe the kid says, I don't want to talk about it, Mom and Dad. I don't want to talk about you dying.
All right.
Well, we need to talk about your lights going dim, because usually it's dim and out. Hopefully it's quickly out like my dad. But the question is, do you have the documents we just spoke about? Do you have them in place? Maybe you need to get them in place and have someone review them. This is why when people come into us, Alex, we look at their dreams, their dollars, and then the dynasty. Let's see what happens if we're in your life as a financial advising office for now, 44 years now, going on 44. The question is going to be, where do we stand? How can we help you make sure that you're buttoned up in every area? Do we have to call your attorney? Do you want to use the attorneys we work with? It doesn't matter. We don't get paid for that. We're not attorneys. But we can tell you one thing. In the financial world, we need to know the area of taxes and legal documents for making sure your dynasty is protected. So again, step one, I got a problem. I need to review it. Step two, maybe you read a couple things, read your documents, pull them out of the shelf, pull them out of the bank vault, read them. Number three, make an appointment. Maybe give our studios a call, 609-488-4646. Again, this is not just a sales gimmick. We're not going to charge you. This is totally complimentary. Maybe you're looking for a firm like ours. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're a financial advisor, didn't ever read them. To me, that's just double daggum dumb, because they should have paid attention to how the documents are, because most documents are incorrectly set up on beneficiaries. Let me make it real clear. Most all documents in the financial world are probably 9 times out of 10 are set up incorrect, because you think your will is in charge, but it's not. The documents, the financial documents, are number one, the ace of spades, followed by the will. You know what? You want to avoid probate? 609-488-4646. I promise you're going to love when you visit our firm, and you're going to help understand what to do. Alex, I'm not sure if this is clear, but step one, take care right now and make that decision. I need to review this.
Well, and Scott, one thing not to be overlooked, there can be some big tax consequences with these financial decisions, and it comes to legacy, inheritance. I mean, there's definitely some things you could do to better set yourself up for the future.
Depending on what president and what the laws are at the time, this is big. Understanding how taxes work about passing money on to the children. In the state of New Jersey, they had the gas tax, which eliminated the inheritance tax. So no reason to move to Florida for that reason. Maybe if you want to get warm and toasty, maybe you go to Florida or down south. But the other area is understanding the taxation options. You brought up a great point of the estate planning. Maybe your money's going not to your children because you maybe don't have children. Maybe it's going to charity, and maybe it's going to maybe a close friend, relative, niece, nephew. Okay, if that's the case, wonderful. What's the taxation? And the next question is, maybe you're going to give money to a charity. You know what? I love it. It's better to give than receive. How about better to give and get more back? I wrote a paper on that for the churches. What a great way to pass on assets. So you want to use your IRA assets to pass on to the charity so they get it tax-free, even though, quote, it was taxable. Now it's tax-free. So again, if you've got charities, you do tax planning in addition to legacy planning, looking at all the areas. And then we go into the medical planning. How do we hide the money or protect the money from the inevitable crows in the crowns, the medical department called the nursing homes and facilities. So this is really important when they say that. So your beneficiary designations, are they up to date? Your beneficiary designations, can we avoid taxes? Your beneficiary designations, can we avoid probate?
That is Scott McClain, founder of McClain Advisory Group, located here in Waretown, New Jersey, in beautiful Ocean County, helping you shore up your retirement future, going over creating a lasting legacy. And if you have questions, that number 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. Just add a .com for the website. And when we come back, it is one of our favorite segments as we're going to be reaching into that financial insanity mailbag, answer some of your questions.
Not again.
Oh, yeah, we're doing it, baby. That's on the other side. Thanks for joining us.
What if you ordered a pizza, but when you opened the box, a couple pieces were missing? That would be upsetting, right? Now think about how much you believe you have saved for retirement. Do you still owe taxes on that money? If you do, that can take a big bite out of your nest egg. Financial advisor Scott McClain and his team at McClain Advisory Group understand the importance of tax planning and can help you reduce the impact that Uncle Sam has on your retirement. Give them a call today to start working on your retirement tax plan. 609-488-4646. Create a plan today so that you can get as many slices of your retirement pie as possible. Call Scott McClain at 609-488-4646 today and schedule your retirement tax analysis. That's 609-488-4646. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McClain Tax Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies, LLC, are not associated entities. Firm may not give tax advice.
Frankly, you could have your grandkids tweet out to your friends or go on the Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is and say, I got great information from Scott.
And you left out TikTok there as you're rambling off the different social media being used by the kids today. You got to remember that TikTok.
Oh, that's right. Tickety-tock.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McClain, powered by McClain Advisory Group.
Well, there are certain things that you are not supposed to bring up at a dinner party. And there are a few topics that you're just too uncomfortable. You don't want to talk about with even your kids, your spouse, let alone a financial professional. But there are some important topics that we need to think about, especially as we get close to retirement. So we're going to talk about those today. Bite the bullet, dig into the top 5 list for this week, the top 5 taboo topics in retirement. I'm Alex Dingman, host of Financial Insanity. I'm here with Scott McClain of McClain Advisory Group, the founder of McClain Advisory Group. And Scott, this is part of your job. You know that, you're going to be talking about things with folks that are difficult to talk about. And I want to get started on this top 5 list, Scott. So the first thing, number 5, as we're going to count down, is death. I mean, it's not something we want to talk about, not a fun conversation, but it's a part of retirement, and it's the kind of thing, but it affects your plan when it's part of the discussion, obviously.
It does, and you kind of want to speak when we meet with the clients about this. What happens if your spouse dies? What happens if you die? Let's run the numbers on both sides. Again, paying attention to the real numbers of saying, can you survive if your partner, spouse, passed away and you're depending on the income? Then what's the game plan? So kind of a game plan of what if scenario. I could say the worst case scenario. Daddy always said, Scott, always figure out the worst case scenario, then go for it. And I think that's important. So again, death is inevitable unless we're raptured out of here, which should be a fun ride. But I can tell you, if that doesn't happen, dying. Most people don't want to talk about death. They don't want to talk about finalize. Well, that's a spiritual thing that I feel strongly about. And then for not only spiritual, emotional, what do the kids know, or the beneficiaries, the spouse, do they know your desires, and they know your dreams, and they know what you want, and they can change. This is important. This is number 5, the death list. The death list is, I don't want to think about it, talk about it. Dad, I don't want to talk about your money. Son, we're going to talk about it. That's how our conversation started, because that dad was very direct. And I think I want those of you out there being very direct with your family. What do you want? What do you see? I think the next one, Alex, kind of ties in with death. I think I'm sure you know the next. What's the next one we're talking about, Emma?
Yeah, so mental health.
That ties right into death, because I mean, if your lights are starting to twinkle, some of you out there, maybe your husband, your wife, your dad, your mom, the lights are twinkling and you're saying, oh my goodness, What's the next game plan? How do I set up the estate? Do I have the power of attorney for financial matters? Do I have the power of attorney for healthcare matters? This number 4 on top of death is the biggest concern is, what if my mom and dad start to lose it? What if I start to lose it? Do I have some signs? Are you paying attention? Because this is an emotional, tremendous struggle. And then do we need to move around money in the portfolio? So again, this discussion, you can't put it off.
Right.
So we have to have a what if scenario.
Absolutely. And when it comes to mental health, too, part of that conversation also is just helping people not be overly stressed. You know, it's
that's powerful.
There's a lot of things, you know, to think about in retirement, but that financial worry, you don't want to just have that during retirement. That's really holding you back. So that's the kind of thing where, Scott, having a plan in place can help with your mental health in retirement for sure.
And it could change. I mean, some people have long-term care. You're seeing the prices go up. Do you keep them? Do you not keep them? What do you do? Let's take a look at the estate. Should you put your house into a trust? What kind of trust? These are really discussions that you really need to have with your financial advisor. And when you speak to him or her, or you want to give our studios a call, you want to have a conversation with me, I'd love to do it off the air, whether you work with me or not. 609-488-4646. I'd love to share a few minutes with you. And if I can help you and guide you, and perhaps this is a place for you or not, that's not the reason you're calling. You're calling to say, can you help me on these taboo discussions? We're talking about death, divorce, possibly mental health, or divorce. You're right. I think that's another topic, isn't it, Alex?
Yeah, let's go to that one. It's another taboo topic, but it must be discussed. As we know, over the past 30 years, divorce rate after age 50 has doubled in the U.S. What about some financial challenges for a couple divorcing as they get close to retirement?
This is a real challenge, Alex, when you're living with your mate, your spouse, partner, and the wheels start to fall off and you start to see things differently. You're not the same person you used to be. And that leads to what are we going to do? We're going to live in the house and cohabitate and spend and split our bills. Well, that gives you indigestion. I can tell you, going home and seeing the person you don't want to see. I hate to talk about this subject, divorce. Divorce is painful. And if you're going through it now, I understand what you're saying. I've been there, and it's no fun. But I do understand there's light at the end of the tunnel once you get it set up. But this money crisis, this dividing of assets, this money, how do I make sure my monies won't outlive? Now I'm living on a 1 income versus 2 income. This is a real challenge for those. Maybe you're seeing it coming on your life. You need to have those discussions with your financial advisor, even though you may not feel comfortable. You know what? Uncomfortable is okay, but you got to deal with it so you become comfortable. So again, divorce is you don't even want to think about it. But I guarantee you, Alex, you said 50%. That means you're going out to dinner with 4 couples. Somebody's thinking about something. I hope it's not you.
Well, and the other side of that too, Scott, is that you're prepared and you're happy to help somebody too with, well, this divorce happened and now my plan is totally different. You know, we had this plan forever.
Yes.
And now that the divorce has happened, it's going to affect things, and you'd be happy. Hey, you come on in. Let's look at your plan now as a more independent person and what that looks like. But you're happy to have that conversation as well.
And we've had it, Alex, with our clients. We've had clients we've just loved to death. George will not, our firm will not pick sides.
Right.
We need to get you through this and help you understand. So if you're out there thinking I'm divorced, what I love doing is, who is your backup? Is it your son, your daughter, a significant other? Maybe it's your close friend of yours that you might want to lean on as we discuss these very important topics.
Yep.
So you can make sure that your life will continue to go on and not really worry or as much as you have to or that you're going to. Well, you might worry. The question is, what are you going to worry about? Let's take care of the money. Let's see if the money's going to keep coming in. How do we change your portfolio for you?
Mm-hmm. All right, so we're going through the 5 most taboo topics in retirement. We've talked about death, mental health, divorce. Another one, we just have 2 left, is relationships. So retirement, it's going to have an impact on the relationship with your spouse, your kids, grandkids. How important it is for pre-retirees to start thinking about some boundaries, when it comes to watching the grandkids, to suppose how much time they're going to be spending with their spouse when they're both home all day. Things like this, definitely you have to plan for.
We spoke about that once before. I'll never forget when Dad said to me, "Son, I'm going to take a job." I said, "Why, Dad? You don't need the money." "I just want to get away from your mother and do something." All right, Dad, I get it. I didn't understand back then, but you know what? People need to get away. They need to have that break. But doesn't mean you don't love the person. And this is a discussion I have when people say, "I want to move." Let's say North Carolina, South Carolina, I want to go to Florida. Well, let me ask you something. What's the budget you put away to visit the grandkids? Again, another problem you brought up, Alex, is when the children happen to come to the well all the time and ask for money. This is a taboo discussion because you don't want to talk, "Well, I'll always help my kids." Well, you can always help your kids to the point where you can burn so much money up. And now here you are and you're 76, 77, and now you're completely out, or you're not living the lifestyle and you're very healthy. Hopefully we're all healthy, but you don't have the money because you were keep giving and giving, a tree that keeps giving, and now we have a stump left. Terrible, terrible way to think. And this is where you have to say, "No, I can't." No. And this is a cuss word for many people, especially if you're a Labrador out there and you love everybody, you love your kids, you can never say no. Well, this could be a real damaging effect in the big picture.
Finally, the number one thing on our list of taboo topics, and this one's a little ironic given the fact that, well, we talk about this all the time, but money. That can be a taboo topic in itself. Talk a little bit about how some people, they just have a hard time talking about their finances.
Sometimes people think that they have a lot of money and they should be fine, and their neighbor next to them maybe doesn't have that much money. How does that conversation work? Now, it's not about money, it's about relationship. But the question really is, you don't want to talk about money. This is where you really need to get in a relationship with your partner, your spouse, as well as the advisor, if you use an advisor, because this is really personal. And not talking about something could be a problem. You need to bring up some issues. For example, in my case, Mom and Dad, Dad did the bills, and then Mom didn't see what was going on. And then Dad says, "Joan, I want you to do the bills. I want you to see what's going on, so where we find out where the money is going, how is it going out, and how are we handling our finances." I'll never forget Dad doing with Mom and they getting it together. Did Mom like it? No, Daddy paid the bills. I think he was getting her ready just in case something happened, and Dad did pass away before my mom. And so you need to have these discussions with your loved ones on top of the discussions with the kids. And again, this is a taboo. No one wants to talk about death. Your kids don't want to hear it. But you know what? Put your foot down, husbands, wives, dads, moms, and say, "Hey, here's what's going on. Let's make a quick conversation. We don't need to belabor it. Again, where does the money?" Again, money means different things to different people. To you, maybe money's freedom. To me, maybe money is just, can I get my next meal? So how we look at money, how we pay attention to it. I don't know if this answers the question, but again, this topic is so amazing. You go to a church sometimes, and I remember one person said, "Scott, money's not everything." You're right, it's not everything, but right up there with breathing, it's pretty close to it because you need to have it. And so I'm thinking, is your money in a place? Are you sharing? That doesn't mean to talk to people, everybody, about your money. It's like somebody going to Atlantic City and winning the gambling table or pulling the slot. And of course, you won that day. But what about the last 2 years, 3 years? You haven't won. You talk about the winners. You don't talk about the losers. Well, this is important to talk about money. This is really important. And for those of you, maybe you're embarrassed to talk to your kids. Maybe you need a little help. Maybe you say, "Kids, I need to downsize. Let's talk about it." These conversations are so hard. And it's rather do it now than all of a sudden your mom and dad's lights are starting to twinkle and they start to forget, and they forget more. And now they're saying, "Okay, what's going on?" And they forgot. You're having that same conversation for the third time in the next 20 minutes. So you're seeing that maybe things are starting to change. Do we have money? What do we do? And this is the conversations we have with our clients so often, to making sure that you're in the right position, or maybe we need to change positions, or we need to get set up to maybe open up some different type of trust planning or to protect your assets. This is important. 609-488-4646. I want to put a tool out there, you guys. It's a wonderful tool. It's 609-488-46. It's called the telephone. The phone will bring you right to myself or George. We'll be able to answer some of your questions because, you have a tool. It's out there. You want to use it. No cost, no obligation. Let's have a quick conversation. Discuss what's on your heart. Again, we just brought up 5 areas. Alex, would you go over those 5 areas, Alex? This is what you need to talk about. It seems to be taboo, and you cannot avoid the uncomfortable conversations. Alex, what were they?
Absolutely, yes. Scott and his team, happy to have these conversations with you, make them a little easier. Death, mental health, divorce, the relationships you have with your spouse, your kids, your grandkids, and then also money. Those are the big 5. And a great conversation today, Scott. Thank you so much for all of that wisdom. And we appreciate all of our great listeners. And until next time, thanks for listening to Financial Insanity.
This radio program may contain information which has gone regulatory or other significant changes since its original recording. The information and views expressed on today's show is educational in nature and is not intended to be a recommendation for any specific investment, product, strategy, plan, tax, or legal advice. Information presented is believed to be factual and up to date, but we do not guarantee its accuracy. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies, LLC, are not associated entities.
This radio show is a paid placement.